The night was quiet and soul when the first explosion lit up the sky. President Park Tai-woo was sleeping in his residence when his security chief burst through the door. The old soldier's face was white with fear, and Park Tai-woo knew immediately that something terrible had happened. "Sir, we are under attack. Orbital bombardment. Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, 12 cities hit so far." Park Tai-woo felt his heart turn cold, but his face remained calm. He had trained himself for moments like this. He dressed quickly and followed his guards to the underground bunker beneath the presidential building. Screens covered every wall, and each screen showed destruction. Buildings collapsed, fires burned, people ran screaming through streets filled with dust and smoke. "Who?" Park Tai-woo asked. His voice was steady. "The Corvani Empire, sir. Their fleet appeared without warning. They are demanding our complete surrender." The Corvani. Park Tai-woo knew them well. For 50 years, humanity had been part of the Galactic Council, a collection of alien species who ruled this part of the galaxy. The Corvani were one of the oldest and most powerful members. They had always looked at humans the way a lion looks at a mouse, with hunger and contempt. Across the world, Admiral Kim Yuna received the same terrible news. She stood on the bridge of her ship, the UEF Guardian, watching her tactical display fill with red symbols. Corvani warships, hundreds of them. Her Earth defense fleet had only 40 vessels, and most of them were small patrol ships. "Admiral, what are your orders?" her second-in-command asked. Kim Yuna's mind worked quickly. Direct fight would be suicide. The Corvani ships were bigger, stronger, and more advanced. But she was not ready to die today, and she was not ready to let Earth die either. "All ships, fall back to Mars. Do not engage." "I repeat, do not engage." "But Admiral, Earths will survive," Kim Yuna said firmly. "But only if we are smart. The Corvani expects us to fight and die like fools. We will not give them that satisfaction." On the ground, General Lee Soon-ho watched Corvani landing craft descend on the burning city of Busan. He had 5,000 soldiers. Under his command, armed with weapons that the aliens considered primitive, the Corvani ground troops wore heavy armor and carried plasma rifles. By every logical measure, his men should surrender. Lee Sun-ho smiled grimly. The Corvani had studied humanity for 50 years. They knew about human art, human music, human philosophy. They saw a species that loved peace and beauty. But they had not studied human history carefully enough. They did not understand what humans could become when their homes were threatened. "All units," Lee Sun-ho spoke into his communicator. "Be welcome to hell. Make them pay for every street, every building, every inch of ground. Show them what humans are made of." Far away, in the great chambers of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Choi Hanna stood before the assembled representatives of 100 alien species. Her dress was torn and dirty. She had barely escaped the attack on the Earth Embassy. But her voice was strong and clear. "I demand that this council intervene. Corvane have attacked a member species without provocation. Millions of my people are dead. This is a violation of every law this council claims to uphold." High Counselor Velthus, an ancient being with gray skin and cold black eyes, looked down at her with something like amusement. He had led the council for 300 years, and he had seen many primitive species come and go. "Ambassador, the council does not interfere in conflicts between member species. If the Corvani have grievances against your people, that is a matter between you and them." "Grievances?" Choi Hanna's voice rose with anger. "They are slaughtering civilians. Children are dying in the streets. Then perhaps your people should surrender," another delegate said. "The Corvani are offering absorption into their empire. Many species would consider that an honor." Choi Hanna looked around the chamber. She saw indifference on most faces. A few showed sympathy, but none spoke up. She understood then what her people had always suspected: the galaxy did not care about humanity. They were just another primitive species to be used or discarded. "You will regret this," she said quietly. "All of you," Velthus laughed. "Is that a threat, Ambassador? Your people cannot even defend your own planet? What could you possibly do to us?" Choi Hanna did not answer. She simply turned and walked out of the chamber, back on Earth. President Park Tai-woo made a call on a secure channel that only 3 people knew existed. Dr. Baek Jin-ho answered on the second ring. "It is time," Park Tai-woo said. "Activate Protocol Omega." There was a long pause. "Are you certain, sir? Once we reveal ourselves, there is no going back. The Corvani have killed millions of our people. The Council has abandoned us. You have no choice." "Understood, sir. It will be done." Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, hidden from every sensor and satellite, Dr. Baek Jin-ho walked through tunnels that did not appear on any map. He passed through security checkpoints that used technology no alien had ever seen. Finally, he reached a massive underground hangar. Before him stood rows of warships. They were sleek and dark, covered in strange angles and unfamiliar designs. These were not ships built from alien technology. They were something else entirely. 30 years ago, a craft had crashed in the Pacific Ocean, a craft from somewhere outside the known galaxy. Humanity had found it, hidden it, and spent 3 decades studying its secrets. The Galactic Council believed humans were primitive. They believed Earth's defense fleet of 40 small ships was all humanity possessed. They had no idea that in hidden facilities across the solar system, humanity had built an armada of 200 advanced warships. Dr. Baek Jin-ho placed his hand on the cold metal of the nearest ship. He thought of the burning cities, the dead children, the arrogant aliens who believed humans were weak. "I thought we were showing them everything," he whispered. "They were wrong." Above him, the hangar doors began to open. And somewhere in the darkness of space, Admiral Kim Yuna received a message that made her smile for the first time that terrible night. The real war was about to begin. 3 weeks had passed since the attack. The Corvani were learning a terrible lesson about humanity. Warlord Tarek stood in his command center, staring at reports that made no sense. His army had conquered dozens of planets. Most species surrendered within days. The weak ones fought briefly and died. The smart ones accepted their defeat and served their new masters. Humans did neither. "Another patrol was ambushed last night," his officer reported. 30 soldiers dead. The humans attacked from underground tunnels, killed our men, took their weapons, and disappeared. Tarek slammed his fist on the table. "How is this possible? We control their cities. We have orbital superiority. Their military was destroyed in the first wave. Sir, the humans, they do not fight like soldiers. They fight like something else. Every civilian is a potential enemy. Old men attack our supply convoys. Women plant explosives in our barracks. Even their children throw rocks and bottles at our patrols." Tarek had never seen anything like it. On other conquered worlds, the population accepted defeat. They went back to their lives under new rulers. But humans refused to accept. They burned their own buildings rather than let the Corvani use them. They destroyed their own food supplies rather than feed the invaders. They fought with kitchen knives and farming tools when they ran out of weapons, deep in the ruins of Busan. General Lee Sun-ho coordinated the resistance. He lived in the sewers now, moving constantly, never sleeping in the same place twice. His original force of 5,000 had been cut in half, but for every soldier he lost, 10 civilians joined the fight. "General, we captured another Corvani officer," a young fighter reported. "He is asking to speak with you." Lee Sun-ho found the alien officer tied to a chair in an abandoned basement. The creature's armor had been removed, and it looked almost fragile without its technological shell. "You wanted to speak?" Lee Sun-ho asked. The officer looked at him with confusion in its eyes. "Why do you keep fighting? You cannot win. Our fleet controls your skies. Our army controls your cities. Every day, more of you die. What is the purpose of this? Madness?" Lee Sun-ho pulled up a chair and sat down across from the alien. "Let me tell you a story. A long time ago, on this very peninsula, a small nation was invaded by a much larger empire. The invaders had more soldiers, better weapons, and total control of the seas. Everyone expected the small nation to fall quickly. What happened? The war lasted 7 years. The small nation lost most of its people. Its cities were burned to ashes. But in the end, the invaders left, exhausted and broken. because they learned that some people cannot be conquered. You can kill them, but you cannot make them surrender. The officer was silent for a long moment. You would rather die than submit? We would rather die than live on our knees. And we would rather take as many of you with us as possible. The Sunho stood up. Tell your warlord that this is just the beginning. We have not even started to show you what we can do. Far from Earth, at a secret facility hidden in the asteroid belt, Admiral Kim Yuna stood on the bridge of the UEF Vengeance. The ship was magnificent, twice the size of any Corvani battleship, armed with weapons that could cut through their shields like paper. Around her, 200 similar ships floated in perfect formation, the real Earth Defense Fleet. The fleet that humanity had hidden from the galaxy for 30 years. Admiral, all ships report ready, her tactical officer announced. The crews are eager to fight. Kim Yuna understood their eagerness. Many of them had lost family in the attack. They had watched their home burn while they hid in the darkness of space, waiting for the order to reveal themselves. Now that order had finally come. Open a channel to all ships, she commanded. The communication officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Kim Yuna's voice was calm and cold. This is Admiral Kim Yuna. For 3 weeks we have watched our people suffer. We have seen our cities burn. We have heard the screams of our children. The galaxy believes we are weak. The Corvani believe they have already won. Today, we teach them the truth. She paused, letting her words sink in. Our ancestors survived ice ages that killed most life on Earth. They survived plagues that wiped out half the population. They survived wars that should have ended our species. Each time, humanity came back stronger. The Corvane think they have seen our worst. They have seen nothing. On every ship, officers and crew stood at attention. Many had tears in their eyes. When we reach Corvani space, we will not show them mercy. We will not show them weakness. We will show them exactly what happens when you attack our home. Set course for Corvani Prime. Maximum speed. Back on Earth, President Park Tai-Wu addressed the planet through hidden broadcast networks that the Corvani could not jam. His face appeared on screens in resistance hideouts, in refugee camps, in the basements where families huddled together. My fellow humans, he began. I know you are afraid. I know you are angry. I know many of you have lost everything, your homes, your loved ones, your hope. But I am here to tell you that hope is not lost. It has only been sleeping. He looked directly into the camera, his eyes burning with quiet determination. The galaxy looks at us and sees a young species. They see 50 years of peaceful exploration and think they understand us. But they forgot to look deeper. They forgot to see the thousands of years of fire and blood that made us who we are. They see the smile on our face and forget about the iron in our spine. In occupied cities around the world, people gathered around hidden screens to watch. The Corvani came to Earth expecting easy prey. Instead, they found warriors. They found a people who would rather die standing than live crawling. And soon, very soon, they will learn the full price of their mistake. Park Tai-Wu's expression hardened. To the Galactic Council who abandoned us, remember this day. Remember that when humanity begged for help, you laughed and turned away. Remember that when you had the chance to be our friends, you chose to be spectators at our destruction. We will not forget, and we will not forgive. He took a deep breath. To the Corvani, you attacked our home. You killed our children. You thought you could break us? You were wrong. We are coming for you. And when we arrive, you will finally understand why every predator on Earth feared the dark. Because in the dark is where humans learn to hunt. The broadcast ended. Across Earth, in resistance camps and hidden bunkers, humans looked at each other with new fire in their eyes. They had been pushed to the edge of extinction, and like their ancestors before them, they refused to fall. In her chambers on the Council's space station, Delegate Myris of the Sindari Federation watched the human broadcast with growing unease. Unlike most council members, she had studied human history carefully. She knew what humans had done to each other in their past. She knew the wars they had fought, the weapons they had built, the horrors they had unleashed, and she knew with terrible certainty that the galaxy had made a mistake it would never be able to undo. The storm was coming, and the galaxy was not ready. The Galactic Council was in the middle of a routine session when every alarm in the station began screaming. High Counselor Velthus looked up from his documents with irritation. In 300 years of leading the council, he had never heard so many alarms at once. Around him, delegates from 100 species began talking nervously. What is happening? Velthus demanded. A technician ran onto the floor, something that had never happened before. His face was pale with shock. Counselor, our sensors have detected a massive fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel. They are heading toward Corvani Prime. Which species dares attack a council member? The technician swallowed hard. Sir, the fleet is human, Velthus laughed. The sound echoed through the silent chamber. Impossible. The humans have no fleet. We destroyed their ships in the initial attack. You must be mistaken. Sir, I am not mistaken. 200 warships. They are moving faster than any technology we have ever recorded. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions. Some demanded more information. Others began contacting their home worlds. Velthus felt something cold settle in his stomach. Something he had not felt in centuries. Fear, Commander Draven. Receive the news on Corvani Prime. He stood in the Planetary Defense Center, watching the human fleet approach on his displays. At first, he refused to believe it. Humans were primitive. Their technology was centuries behind the Corvani. They could not possibly have ships like these. But the sensors did not lie. All defense fleets engaged the enemy, Draven ordered. Show these humans what Corvani power looks like. 300 Corvani warships moved to intercept the human fleet. The Corvani had never lost a space battle. Their ships were the finest in the galaxy, crewed by the best-trained soldiers in known space. Draven expected the engagement to last perhaps an hour. It lasted 12 minutes, Admiral. Kim Yuna watched the battle unfold from the Bridge of the Vengeance. The Corvani ships were exactly where she expected them to be. They flew in perfect formation, following tactics that had not changed in 1,000 years. They were predictable. They were arrogant. And they were about to learn that the galaxy had changed. All ships engage electronic warfare systems, she commanded, across the human fleet. Weapons activated that the galaxy had never seen. These were not plasma cannons or missile launchers. These were weapons designed by Dr. Baek Jin-ho and his team, based on technology from outside the known galaxy. Weapons that could think, that could adapt, that could turn an enemy's own technology against them. The Corvani fleet's computer systems went insane. Navigation failed. Weapons locked. Communications dissolved into static. Ships that had flown together for decades suddenly lost all coordination. Some began firing on each other. Others spun helplessly, their engines offline. Admiral, the enemy fleet is neutralized, the tactical officer reported with something like wonder in her voice. Minimal casualties on both sides. Kimuna nodded. This was exactly what she wanted. She had not come here to slaughter the Corvani. She had come here to deliver a message. Open a channel to the planet, she ordered, on Corvani Prime. Every screen suddenly showed the same image. Admiral Kim Yuna, standing calm and cold on her bridge. People of the Corvani Empire. I am Admiral Kim Yuna of the United Earth Federation. Your fleet has been disabled. Your orbital defenses are offline. Your planet is completely vulnerable to attack. Commander Draven watched with growing horror. Everything he had believed about humans was wrong. They were not primitive. They were not weak. They had been hiding, waiting, preparing for exactly this moment. 3 weeks ago, your military attacked our home without warning. You killed millions of innocent people. You burned our cities. You thought we would surrender or die. You were wrong. Kim Yuna's voice remained steady, almost gentle. We have the power to destroy your planet. Every city, every life, reduced to ashes in a matter of hours. Your military cannot stop us. Your council cannot save you. You are completely at our mercy. She paused, letting the words sink in. But we are not here to destroy you. We are here to deliver a message not just to you, but to everyone in this galaxy who thought humanity could be crushed. Look at your sensors. See your disabled fleet? Understand what this means? Then tell your leaders, your council, your emperors and presidents, humanity is awake, and we remember. On Earth, General Lee Sun-ho led the final assault against Corvani forces in Busan. Word of the human fleet's victory had spread through resistance networks. The effect was electric. Fighters who had been hiding emerged by the thousands. Citizens who had been too afraid to resist suddenly found their courage. The Corvani occupiers found themselves surrounded. Their communications with the homeworld were cut. Their reinforcements were not coming. For the first time, they felt what humans had felt for 3 weeks. The cold terror of being trapped by an enemy that would not stop. Surrender, and you will be treated fairly. Lee Sun-ho announced through captured communication systems. Continue fighting and we will show you no mercy. You have 5 minutes to decide. Most Corvani units surrendered. The few that chose to fight died quickly. President Park Tae-woo received the news in his bunker. Earth was being liberated, city by city. The Corvani occupation was collapsing. His people were winning, but he knew the real battle was just beginning. The Corvani were only one species in a galaxy full of predators. The Council had stood by while Earth burned. They would not simply accept humanity's sudden rise. They would try to crush this new threat before it grew stronger. He opened a secure channel to Ambassador Choi Hanna, who had been waiting on a neutral station for weeks. "It is time," he said. "Request an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Tell them the President of the United Earth Federation wishes to address them personally. They will try to manipulate the session. They will try to paint us as aggressors. Let them try. I have something to say that they need to hear. All of them." On the council station, High Counselor Velthos received the request with a mix of fear and anger. The humans had humiliated the Corvani, one of the most powerful members of the council. They had revealed technology that should not exist. They had changed the balance of power in the galaxy in a single day. He wanted to refuse the request. He wanted to gather the council's combined fleets and crush these upstart humans before they became an even greater threat. But he was not a fool. He had seen what the human fleet could do. He knew that a war with humanity might not end the way the council expected. "Grant the request," he finally said. "Let the human president come and speak. Let us hear what he has to say." He did not know it yet, but those words would change galactic history forever. On the UEF Vengeance, Admiral Kim Yuna watched Corvani Prime turn slowly beneath her. The planet was untouched. Its cities still stood. Its people still lived. She had proven that humanity could destroy them, and then she had chosen not to. She hoped the galaxy understood the message. Humanity was not cruel. Humanity was not bloodthirsty. But humanity would never be weak again. "Admiral," her communications officer called. "The President is ready for transport to the Council Station." Kim Yuna nodded. "Tell him the fleet stands ready. Whatever happens in that chamber, we have his back." The real confrontation was about to begin. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Every seat was filled. Representatives from over 100 species sat in perfect silence, waiting. Above them, holographic displays showed the human fleet still positioned over Corvani Prime. A constant reminder of what had changed. President Park Tae-woo entered through the main doors. He wore a simple black suit, no medals or symbols of power. Beside him walked Ambassador Choi Hanna, her head held high. They stopped in the center of the chamber, surrounded by aliens who had dismissed humanity as insignificant just weeks ago. High Counselor Velthus spoke first. His voice was cold but careful. "President Park Tae-woo, you requested this session? The council will hear what you have to say." Park Tae-woo looked around the chamber slowly. He met the eyes of species that had laughed at Ambassador Choi Hanna when she begged for help. He saw fear on some faces, anger on others, confusion on many. Good. They were finally paying attention. "Thank you, High Counselor. I have come here with a simple purpose, to help you understand what has happened, and what will happen next." He began to walk slowly, his voice filling the chamber without effort. 50 years ago, Humanity made first contact with your civilization. We were invited to join this council as a minor member. We accepted because we believed that the galaxy was a place of law and justice. We believed that the strong would protect the weak. We believed that if we were ever in danger, the council would stand with us. He stopped and looked directly at Velthus. We were fools to believe that. The chamber stirred. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others whispered to each other. Velthos remained still, his expression unreadable. When the Corvani attacked our home, we came to this council for help. Ambassador Choi Hanna stood in this very chamber and begged you to intervene. Millions of our people were dying. Our cities were burning. And what did this council do? His voice hardened. Nothing. You did nothing. You told us that our genocide was an internal matter. You told us that perhaps we should surrender. You laughed at us and went back to your comfortable lives. Park Taiwu resumed walking, so I want to thank you. All of you. Your abandonment taught us something valuable. It taught us that in this galaxy, there is only one law that matters: power. The strong take what they want. The weak suffer and die. That is the truth you have lived by for thousands of years. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Well, we learned your lesson. We learned it very well. A display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing footage of the Corvani fleet being disabled in 12 minutes. The delegates watched in silence. You thought you knew humanity. You've studied us for 50 years. You saw our art, our music, our philosophy. You saw that we value peace and cooperation. And you concluded that we were soft, that we were weak, that we would be easy prey? Park Taiwu shook his head. You should have studied our history more carefully. Because if you had, you would have seen something else entirely. You would have seen 50,000 years of war. You would have seen weapons that could destroy entire cities in a single flash. You would have seen a species that fought itself to the edge of extinction again and again, and survived every time. The display changed to show images from human history, ancient battles, medieval wars, the trenches of World War I, the mushroom clouds of World War II. The delegates watched with growing unease. We are not a peaceful species. We are a species that chooses peace because we know exactly how terrible war can be. We have seen it. We have lived it. We have done things to each other that would horrify every being in this chamber. He turned to face the council directly. When we joined the galaxy, we deliberately appeared weaker than we were. We hid our true capabilities. We fed you false intelligence. We let you believe we were primitive. Why? Because we knew that predators test new prey. We wanted to see who our friends would be and who our enemies would be. Now we know. Commander Draven, who had been brought to the council to answer for his actions, listened with growing horror. He had thought humans were cowards who had simply gotten lucky. Now he understood that everything had been a trap and he had walked right into it. The weapons we used against the Corvani fleet were operating at 30% capacity. Park Taiwu continued. The ships you saw are the first generation of our true fleet. There are more being built as I speak. In 5 years, we will have 1,000 ships. In 10 years, 3,000. The chamber erupted in shocked murmuring. Velthus raised his hand for silence. Is this a threat, President Park Taiwu? No, High Counselor. It is a fact. Humanity will never again be vulnerable. We will never again be at the mercy of species who see us as prey. We will build the most powerful military force this galaxy has ever seen, and we will use it to defend our people against anyone who threatens them. Ambassador Choi Hanna stepped forward and activated another display. We hereby submit the following demands to this council. First, the Corvani Empire will completely withdraw from Earth space within 30 days. Second, the Corvani will pay full reparations for all damage and loss of life. Third, Commander Draven will be surrendered to human authorities to face trial for war crimes. Fourth, the United Earth Federation will be recognized as a major power with full voting rights on this council. And if we refuse? One delegate called out. Park Taiwu's smile disappeared. Then we will demonstrate what our weapons can do at 100% capacity. We would prefer not to. We did not come here to conquer or destroy. We came here to live in peace among the stars, but we will never again trust our survival to the goodwill of others. Delegate Myris of the Sindari Federation was the first to stand. The Sindari Federation supports the human demands. The Corvani attacked without justification. The Council's failure to act was shameful. It is time to correct that mistake. One by one, other delegates rose. Some supported humanity out of genuine sympathy. Others supported them out of fear. Others saw an opportunity to weaken the Corvani, old rivals who had dominated council politics for centuries. Within an hour, a majority had formed. Velthus watched his carefully maintained power structure crumble. He had ruled the council through fear and manipulation for 300 years. Now, a species he had dismissed as primitive was rewriting the rules of galactic politics. Very well, he said finally. The council will vote on the human demands. The vote was close, but the motion passed. The Corvani would withdraw. Reparations would be paid. Draven would face justice. And humanity would be recognized as a major power. As the session ended, Velthus approached Park Taiwu privately. The old alien's face was carefully neutral, but his eyes burned with cold anger. You have made powerful enemies today, President. The Corvani will not forget this humiliation. Others in the council will fear what humanity might become. This is not over. Park Taiwu met his gaze without flinching. We've always had enemies, High Counselor. The difference is that now our enemies know to be afraid. He turned and walked out of the chamber. Ambassador Choi Hanna fell into step beside him. Sir, what he said is true. Many species will see us as a threat now. Some will try to form alliances against us. Park Taiwu nodded. I know. That is why we must be careful about what kind of power we become. The galaxy has taught us that strength is necessary. But strength without wisdom leads to ruin. We must be better than our enemies. We must show the galaxy that humanity is not just powerful, but just. They reached the transport bay, where a shuttle waited to take them back to the fleet. Park Taiwu paused at the door and looked back at the council station. Today, the galaxy learned that humans can fight. Tomorrow, we must show them that we can also heal. The real work begins now. Shuttle doors closed. And humanity's president returned to his fleet and to the enormous task of rebuilding a broken world. 6 months had passed since the council address, and Earth was being reborn. President Park Taiwu stood on a balcony overlooking Seoul. The city that had burned was now filled with construction, equipment, and workers. Cranes rose toward the sky like metal flowers. The sound of building replaced the sound of bombs. It would take years to fully repair the damage, but the progress was remarkable. Humans from across the Federation had returned home to help. Scientists, engineers, doctors, teachers, everyone with skills to offer, came back to rebuild what the Corvani had destroyed. The destruction had been terrible, but something new was rising from the ashes. Something stronger. Admiral Kim Yuna arrived for their scheduled meeting. She wore her formal uniform now, decorated with medals that recognized her role in saving humanity. But she still carried herself with the same quiet competence that had guided the fleet through its darkest hours. The unveiling ceremony is ready, sir, she reported. The fleet will be officially presented to the public today. Park Taiwu nodded. For 30 years, humanity had hidden its true military strength. Now, there was no more need for secrets. The Earth Defense Fleet would patrol openly, a constant reminder to the galaxy that humanity was no longer prey. How are the crews adjusting? He asked. Morale is high, sir. Everyone understands what is at stake. We have received thousands of applications from young people who want to serve. It seems that the war awakened something in our population. Park Taiwu smiled sadly. War always does. I just hope we can give them something better to fight for than revenge. In the ruins of Busan, General Lee Sunho attended the dedication of a memorial. Black stone walls stretched in rows, carved with millions of names, everyone who had died in the Corvani attack and the occupation that followed. Families gathered to find the names of their loved ones. To touch the stone and remember, Lee Sunho walked slowly along the walls. He knew to many of these names personally, soldiers who had served under his command, civilians who had joined the resistance, children who had never had a chance to grow up. He stopped in front of one name: Park Minji, age 7. She had been killed in the first bombing of Busan. Her parents had joined the resistance the next day. They had both died fighting a week later. Lee Sanho knelt and placed his hand on the stone. "We did not forget," he whispered. "We will never forget." A young boy approached him nervously. "Excuse me, are you General Lee Sanho?" "I am. My grandmother says you saved the city. She says you are a hero." Lee Sanho shook his head. "The heroes are the names on this wall. I just did what had to be done." He stood and looked at the boy seriously. "Remember them. Tell your children about them someday. Make sure the galaxy never forgets what happened here and what humanity sacrificed to survive." On the Galactic Council station, Commander Draven sat in a cell awaiting his trial. He had expected execution. That was what the Corvani did with war criminals. Instead, he would face a human court judged by human laws. The trial was broadcast across the galaxy. Millions of beings watched as evidence was presented of the Corvane attack. The civilian casualties, the brutality of the occupation. Draven's own officers testified against him, hoping to reduce their own sentences. When the verdict came, the galaxy held its breath. Draven was found guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. His sentence: life imprisonment without the possibility of release. Not death. Not torture. Just isolation for the rest of his long life. Many aliens found this confusing. Why would humans show mercy to someone who had killed millions of their people? The Corvani would have executed him publicly. Most council species would have done worse. Ambassador Choi Hanna explained it in a press conference. "We could have killed Commander Draven. We had every right to do so. But we chose to show the galaxy that humanity is not just strong, we are just. We follow laws even when we are angry. We show mercy even when we want revenge. That is what separates civilization from barbarism." Her words spread across the galaxy. Some species laughed at what they saw as human weakness. Others began to look at humanity with new respect. These strange beings from Earth were powerful enough to destroy their enemies, but chose not to. That combination of strength and restraint was something the galaxy had rarely seen in her laboratory. Dr. Baek Jin-ho continued his work. The technology from the crashed alien ship had been fully analyzed, but there was still so much to learn. His teams were developing new medical treatments, new energy sources, new methods of space travel. He wanted to give humanity tools for building, not just weapons for destruction. A delegation from the Sindari Federation visited his facility. They were the first alien species to formally request a technology-sharing agreement with Earth. Dr. Baek Jin-ho gave them a tour, showing them some of humanity's advances while keeping others secret. "Your progress is remarkable," the Sindari delegate said. "In just 50 years, you have achieved what took our species thousands." Humans learn quickly when we are motivated. Fear is a powerful teacher, and now that the fear has passed, now we focus on hope. We have seen what happens when we turn our intelligence toward destruction. We nearly ended our own species several times. Now we want to see what happens when we turn it toward creation instead. President Park Tae-woo gave his final address 6 months after the war's end. He spoke from a rebuilt city square, surrounded by citizens who had survived the darkest period in human history. "My fellow humans, 6 months ago we stood at the edge of extinction. An alien empire tried to crush us. A galactic government abandoned us. We had every reason to despair. Instead, we found something inside ourselves that we had almost forgotten." He looked out at the crowd, old and young, military and civilian, all united by their shared experience. "We remembered that we are survivors. We remembered that humanity has faced extinction before and refused to die. We remembered that when we stand together, there is nothing in the universe that can break us." Park Tae-woo's voice grew softer. "But I do not want us to become like those who attacked us. I do not want fear and anger to define our future. We have built great weapons, yes, but we must also build great schools, great hospitals, great works of art and science. We must show the galaxy that humanity is not just a species to be feared. We are a species worthy of admiration." He paused, gathering himself. "To the galaxy watching this broadcast, we did not ask for this war. We did not want it. But when it came, we remembered what we are. We are the species that looked up at the stars and refused to be afraid. We are the species that fell down 1,000 times and stood up 1,001. We are human. And now the galaxy knows what that means." The crowd erupted in cheers. Above them, human warships patrolled the sky guardians of a world that would never again be caught defenseless. That evening, the 5 people who had guided humanity through its greatest crisis gathered at the memorial. President Park Ti-woo, Admiral Kim Yuna, General Lee Sun-ho, Ambassador Choi Hana, and Dr. Baek Jin-ho stood together in silence. Looking at the names of the fallen, the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Among those stars, human ships kept watch over borders that would never again be crossed by enemies. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed. The future was uncertain, but it belonged to them now. A little girl walked past with her mother. She looked up at the sky with wide eyes. "Mama, are there monsters out there?" Her mother smiled and picked her up. She had lost her husband in the war, but she had survived. Her daughter would grow up in a world where humanity was strong, where no alien empire could threaten her home without consequences. "Yes, sweetheart," she said softly. "There are monsters out there, but do not worry." She looked up at the stars, at the lights of the patrol ships moving slowly across the heavens. "They are afraid of us now." The little girl nodded and rested her head on her mother's shoulder, content. Above them, the stars shone bright and cold. Witnesses to the birth of a new power in the galaxy, a species that had been tested in fire and emerged stronger than anyone had imagined. Humanity had announced itself to the universe, and the universe would never be the same.